Let them eat cake.
This is better known as Sanction. Signing on today, it's 6 classic examples of how people receiving financial welfare support from the state truly deserve to be sanctioned. In fact, despite being founded on the principle of empowering and providing support and dignity to vulnerable individuals, and with our very own Dave suggesting that
the test of a good and strong society is how we look after the most vulnerable, the most frail, and the poorest. That's true in good times, but it's even more true in difficult times.
the financial support element of the welfare state has been transformed over the last 4 years to a system that seeks to penalise and degrade individuals. With sanctions, the process whereby an individual loses their financial state support, having been used a whopping 580,000 times between October 2012 and June of 2013, a rise of almost 6% compared to the previous time period. Still, despite the cost of policing and administrating the sanction element of the benefit system far exceeding the money that sanctions save the taxpayer, it's worth looking at a few bizarre reasons that completely anonymous individuals have had sanctions applied to them, so we can truly understand just how insane this system is. So in no particular order, and following this sentence, here's a quick look at 4 of the sanction system's finest moments. Number 1. Meet Dave. Dave here had been out of work for a little while, and managed to get himself a job interview at a local store. Dave was understandably delighted, but Dave's interview took place at the same time as his job centre appointment. Luckily, Dave here got in contact with the job centre and rearranged his interview with them so he could attend the interview at the store and hopefully no longer have to visit the job centre. After the interview at the store, Dave popped along to his rescheduled job centre interview, only to find that he had been sanctioned and all of his welfare support stopped, leaving him without any financial means to support himself, with the official reason the job centre gave for Dave being sanctioned being attending a job interview is not a good enough reason to miss a job centre appointment. Number 2. Meet Gideon. Gideon here had worked hard for the last 20 years, but then with austerity cutbacks, he unfortunately found himself out of a job. In need of financial support that JSA provides, Gideon popped along to his local job centre to see if he could find some employment support. However, as Gideon here hadn't used a job centre in at least the last 20 years, he didn't realise that he had to meet a strict weekly appointment and ended up missing one of his own appointments at the job centre through no fault of his own. As a result of this misunderstanding, Gideon was sanctioned for 3 weeks. Number 3. Meet Eric. Eric here had been working for the last half-century when he was unfortunately forced to retire due to a heart condition. Eric, in need of some financial support, then claimed employment and support allowance. In order for Eric to claim his employment and support allowance, he was required to undergo a test to prove that his heart condition was real. However, in the middle of his medical test, to assess whether Eric had a heart condition, Eric had a heart attack. Now, while having a heart attack in the middle of a health assessment probably means that you were telling the truth about having a heart condition, for Eric here, it was sadly not enough to prevent him being sanctioned, as Eric lost out on his ESA support for failing to complete his ESA health assessment despite having a heart attack in the middle of it. Number 4. Meet Theresa. Theresa here is out of work and claiming financial support whilst actively seeking work and attending job centre appointments. In an effort to improve her CV, Theresa has decided to give up some of her time to volunteer at a local youth club. However, the job centre believed this to be paid work, despite it being a volunteer position, so Theresa was sanctioned and had her financial support removed. So there we have it, 4 truly ridiculous reasons that people have been sanctioned for. And while a spot of basic maths would suggest that sanctioning people for failing to find work when there are, according to government-approved figures, at least 7 people for every job vacancy, is itself insane, it's worth better knowing that despite the UK being one of the richest countries in the world, albeit having lost 2/3 of its empire, under the stewardship of iain and David, we've arrived at a situation where, as a consequence of the ridiculous sanction system, vulnerable individuals, dependent on the welfare state are being degraded and ultimately left without the support to which they are entitled. Meaning that if our Dave truly believes that
If the test of a good and strong society is how we look after the most vulnerable, the most frail, and the poorest,
then he and his government have surely failed this test.
But you've been unemployed twice before.
Yeah.
Do you
Yes, I
think
have,
picking
yeah.
up litter or serving meals to older people would help you find a job?